USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at USAA.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
This episode is brought to you by PetSmart. Stop by for Yappy Hour with your pet at PetSmart. Save $5 on walk-in grooming services like nail trims, ear cleaning, brushing, and more. No appointment needed every weekday from 2 to 6 p.m. And while you're there, Yappy Hour includes exclusive in-store deals like 25% off pet toys. Visit services.petsmart.com/grooming to learn more.
We're not really necessarily buying ugly houses. We're helping people out of ugly situations. We're teaching people all the different components of this business, whether it's fix and flip, whether it's holding to build a rental portfolio, whether it's wholesaling, assigning, things of that nature. So there's a lot of different revenue streams built into this business. And over the course of the years, we've built out this much larger network. We have nearly 1,000 franchisees, and you really sort of tap into that mind share. It's a very kind of community-driven franchise organization, not just our community of franchisees, but it's people that really want to make an impact in their communities.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to the latest edition of Fran Coach's Franchising 101 podcast. I am Tim Parmeter, founder and CEO of Fran Coach and your podcast host. Today, we're going to welcome in one of our franchise partners to talk about their brand. Today's featured franchise is one of the largest franchises in the United States. It's probably one that you have heard of, but not by their actual name. It features several ways for franchise owners to grow their business with a very low overhead and incredibly low labor model. Kind of intriguing, right? Well, we'll get to that brand here in a second, but first, a quick reminder of who we are here at Fran Coach. At Fran Coach, we are the premier franchise consulting firm. Our number one goal is to not sell you a franchise. We don't sell anything here at Fran Coach. Our goal is to properly educate you on franchise ownership, to first determine if it's something you should do. Maybe not, but that's okay. But maybe it is. And if it is the right path for you, then we're going to work to find your absolute best fit. Not my best fit, not anybody else's, yours. This is your chance to be selfish, folks. You get to be selfish without getting in trouble in this journey. It's going to be the most individualized, personalized thing you ever do, maybe outside of dating, right? So that's us here at Fran Coach. Let's get to our guest now. All right, we are back now with our guests from HomeVestors, Mike Oberholtzer, Vice President of Franchise Development, and Lesly Harden, our broker liaison for HomeVestors. And Mike, as soon as I did that, I realized I forgot one incredibly important thing, and with somebody whose last name was Parmeter. What the hell was I thinking with that? Mike, say your last name for us, so we all know that I butchered it, and you can make fun of me.
You were pretty close to it. I was like, oh wow, that's the first time he said that out loud. It's Mike Oberholtzer. It's just how it spells, but it's a lot of syllables there. So
exactly, and let's be honest, we're all in franchising, so we ain't too bright. So we need to keep it simple. So you are Mike, and I am Tim. And then, Lesly, yours is easy also. So cool. So guys, thanks for joining us. We want to dive into the kind of amazing, it's everywhere, but hidden world of HomeVestors. We buy ugly houses. I definitely want to know why you're calling my house ugly here in a little bit, but we'll get into that. But franchising is a people business. Give us a little bit of you guys' scoop and background. Kind of how you got into this crazy world of franchising.
Yeah, Lesly, do you want to go first?
Sure. So right out of college, I decided that I wanted to help people through art education, specifically children between the ages of 4 and 17 years old. I started an art studio that developed into a series of art studios in South Florida. And as I was getting more and more experience, because I was only 24 years old at the time, learned a lot. One of the parents, one of the children's parents said, you know what, this would be interesting if you could franchise it. You would have it all over the country. And that kind of propelled and kind of snowballed into that small operation. And that's kind of how I got introduced to franchising. I had no idea what an FDD was. I had no idea what process and procedures were about because I was learning all of that along the way. And like I said, it was a lot. It's a great learning experience, but seeing myself now and then, I probably would have wanted to purchase something already created that I didn't have to do from scratch.
Right. Awesome. Super cool. Mike, give us the Mike scoop.
Yeah. So I think this September will be my 20th anniversary in franchising.
Oh, wow.
Started out at a regional automotive franchise called Cotman Transmission. I was doing I was on the finance side. Actually, when I first started, I was helping new business owners get their SBA loans together so that they could launch their business. Pretty, I think a year after working at that, Cotman and Amco being the much bigger player in the space, they merged, and I kind of raised my hand and says, I would like to help people get into this business. I had learned so much about it from the lending side, and ended up moving over to franchise sales or franchise development, and I've never looked back. I've been with several different companies in all different sectors, home services and automotive, clearly, and spent 9 years with H&R Block in their franchise acquisitions team. And it's been, I'm so grateful for this community, number one. And number two, I'm a huge advocate of franchising. While, it's not for everybody, I think it really can be a great path for folks. So I get excited every day to talk to somebody new and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's kind of how I got into franchising.
And like most people, you guys are the same, like no real intent of like, oh my gosh, when I grow up, I want to have a career in franchising, and here you are. And Mike, congrats on 20 years. It's once we get into this crazy thing, people don't get out.
Yeah.
They may move around a little bit to different things, but super cool. And now here with HomeVestors, which I'm guessing you guys hear this a lot, like, what the heck is HomeVestors? And then you say the tag, right? We buy ugly houses. Most people have seen that. They've seen the billboard, do we still have the little caveman looking guy, right? And I'm old enough that I think it's Captain Caveman's brother. Millennials Google that. But I want to get into all the business model side of what HomeVestors is and owners and things like that. But what's HomeVestors kind of doing or selling? Talk a little bit about that kind of that customer and why you guys are even here from that perspective.
So, we're selling financial freedom, I guess, to a potential investor. It's a nice thing about this. So, people kind of have a general understanding of real estate, right? They've seen the HGTV shows. I can go flip a house. That looks fun, right? So yeah, and a lot of people have bought homes, obviously, and some people, bought second and third or investment properties. And anyway, there's a lot of mistakes that could be made in that, right? And buying a house and not buying it right, or not having the right contractors, or whatever the case might be. There's the TV shows and the gurus out there make it seem very easy, and it's just not. And so, 30 years ago, when HomeVestors started this business, it was started with a lot of really smart, mortgage folks, real estate folks, and we had built out this system that could be replicated. And I think the biggest thing that, we've come to kind of find over the last 30 years being in business is that we're people that want to help other people, right? And that's actually the first 3 words of our mission statement, is to help others. And so you had said, I don't know if while we were recording or not, you said about, why do you call my house ugly? And I think you very quickly understand that we're not really necessarily buying ugly houses. We're helping people out of ugly situations. And we're not always going to be the best solution, but what we have is I'll consider a low cost, franchise system, because you can get into this in most markets for, 150 or below. Biggest chunk of that being your ad spend, right? Because that's kind of the secret sauce. But we're teaching people all the different components of this business, whether it's fix and flip, whether it's holding to build a rental portfolio, whether it's wholesaling, assigning, things of that nature. So there's a lot of different revenue streams built into this business. And over the course of the years, we've built out this much larger network. We have nearly 1,000 franchisees, and you really sort of tap into that mind share. It's a very kind of community driven franchise organization, not just our community of franchisees, but it's people that really want to make an impact in their communities. And that's the one thing I would say to people is like, that ask me about this is that, I think I'm going to offend somebody by saying this, but this isn't like Ferragamo belt Gucci shoes real estate, I guess is what I'll say. This is, you're going to go into a house that you're going to see things that you never thought you would see before. Right. And you're going to help these people, whatever their situation is, get out of it. And you have to care about people, right? And so we don't often equate those two things of like real estate investing and caring about people and their personal situation and revitalizing and beautifying a community. And so, I think there's a lot of people that would almost self-edit or take real estate investing out of their search equation because like that doesn't resonate with me. Right. And I would just say there's a lot of components to this that probably do if you kind of look into it a little deeper. So, yeah, I know that I don't know if that answers the question, but at least gives you an idea of like who we are from a cultural perspective.
Yeah. Because it's more than just like, oh, we flip houses, right?
It's so much more than that.
Yes. Like, and it's kind of the why behind it of truly almost kind of a mission driven flippers, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely right. Our mission statement is to help others through innovative processes and real estate solutions that positively impact neighborhoods one home at a time. So that is the whole mission statement. And that's really, you have to buy in. It's not just words, right? Everything we do, we live that. So it's important to have that same mindset when considering a HomeVestors franchise for sure.
Gotcha. Good. So now somebody that's thinking about becoming a franchise owner, and I'm guessing most of your people that are owners, you mentioned all the different things on TV. They've at least thought of, like I'd like to get into real estate. I have some interest. Maybe it's a portfolio or the flipping or whatever. So there's a little bit of that. And talk a little bit about some of the things that HomeVestors is doing, because there's always the thing of like, oh, I could just go buy a house and flip a house. Well, yes, you could, right? You could also start your own sandwich shop, but it's way better when it's like Lesly, like you talked about, like you're doing all this art and you're like, oh my gosh, wouldn't it have been great to have a proven system and plan for that? So, and we probably go for an hour talking about all the different support mechanisms, but talk about some of the things that HomeVestors is doing to help that owner and do it in a better and more efficient way than just like, yeah, I'm gonna go buy some houses and flip them.
Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for the stay.
So, you just started using LinkedIn Premium. Now what? Well, on your premium company page, you noticed around 7.5 times more page engagement and 5 times more page views. Well done. And now, new clients are messaging you. All because you're using LinkedIn Premium, which helps you get the business growth you want. Think big, small business. Think big. Start your free trial at linkedin.com/premium small business. That's linkedin.com/premium small business.
Lesly, sure. I feel like this is one thing that you are so passionate about. So I'll let you lead.
Absolutely. So I think what's truly valuable for anyone that might consider this as an opportunity is having support. And when we say support, we mean support when it comes to lead generating, the technology that goes behind generating those opportunities, those off-market leads for our franchisees, so they don't have to, cold call, door knock, and do it like other traditional real estate investors do, I think that's invaluable because now your main focus is really helping people. And if the transaction happens naturally, then it's a win-win for all. But you don't have to worry about reinventing the wheel and doing all the marketing that's related to building that business. You're focused in making those appointments and meeting with those sellers and helping them out of their challenge or their ugly situation. I think that's one of the most valuable pieces, in addition to the financing piece, to be able to acquire the property, so property acquisition, and to be able to repair those houses, where you can get started again at a very low entry barrier and use OPM, other people's money, in this case, the lending programs that we have, to be able to make those purchases and repairs. And we have multiple programs, not just one, where they can utilize simultaneously. And I think that's really valuable if you're trying to, do volume and really take your business to the next level, which leads to, do I really need experience to do this? No, because we have a community. We have the development agent, which is a coach, a mentor that's going to assist them from day one. Even if they've been here 20 years, they can still call their development agent and ask questions. Hey, could we run numbers? Can you help me out with this buy call, et cetera, et cetera? That is so important because could you imagine what it would be like having an advisor outside and having yourself ask questions? Hey, is this a good deal? Maybe they'll say, I don't know. But inside our HomeVestors community, that's always available. You're going to have that trusted coach that has the best interest in your success because it's going to help their market as well. Yeah. So I think that component, community, the marketing that goes behind, and the financing piece, in addition to the vendor relationships that we've developed over decades, is going to reduce significant amounts of potholes, risk, or whatever have you, should you do this on your own.
Yeah. And you hit, I think, three key things there, but one of them in particular was with the getting the money. People don't think about that. The vendor relationships, and I want to touch on that more. But that's kind of that coach that you're going to have as an owner. That's not, and there's nothing wrong with having, a business coach or whatever that's sitting in wherever the corporate office is. But these are local. Real estate is very local, right? What the market is in Tampa, Florida versus Wichita, Kansas versus Boston, Massachusetts, right? All these things are hugely different. You've got local boots on the ground support as an owner, which is a huge factor, right? For those owners, because it's not somebody talking about a whole different market. They're there and they're seeing it every day, right?
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And they're doing the business as well. So in addition of them, I know you mentioned corporate. These are not corporate employees. These are people that are owners that are locally operating their businesses just like you, the franchisee. In this case, they're feeling the business every single day. They're doing the same exact thing as you. So it's not someone telling you from the corporate ladder, hey, I think you should run your business like this. And they've never owned a business themselves.
Right. They're there and they're doing it. And then you talk a little bit about the money, because again, I think people are like, yes, marketing and lead gen is hugely important, right? And like, I know you guys can go into great more detail on how you're helping, but like, I'm just going to go buy this house. I'm going to flip it. Or I'm going to rent it. I'll just go down to I'll go down to my local bank and I'm sure they'll give me a loan. Are you sure they're going to give you a loan for that? Right? Maybe, maybe not. Especially when it's your first one, there's no track record of you being able to do that. Whereas an owner trying to buy their first house within HomeVestors, you've got the lenders that are going to go like, it's not Tim. It's like, oh, it's Tim from HomeVestors. It's a whole different conversation, right? Like and again, being able to get your owners quickly in position to get the best possible way to get the money is huge for them, correct?
Oh, absolutely. I think, in fact, I don't know if this is like out of term or I don't know what legal will say, but at the end of the day, it's almost like pre-approved, guaranteed money, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but in a fashion it is, because people that come into our business obviously they have a certain criteria for credit score. And because we have developed these relationships and we have the pool and the buying power to do this, they're able to have a better, I would say, outcome, or, they have just a better, I guess, rate of success because we've been doing it for so long and we have all the data to support that.
Yeah, I'll do that legal disclaimer for solutions. So, only thing I'll add to that is, we have a sister company, Silver Hill, and they're probably our most a lender that's used mostly by our franchisees. And to Leslie's point is that we actually use their lending criteria as part of the vetting process for a franchise candidate. Essentially saying, like, since we're using their lending, their criteria, credit score, and things of that nature, then your chances of approval with them are significantly higher. I don't know if I would use the word guaranteed because that word just scares me. Anyway, and there are parameters, right?
Yes, there are.
Of it's got to be bought at the right price and all that kind of stuff. But I wanted to just add one more thing. We talk about this franchise community, and I know maybe a lot of franchisors are saying that they have a really great community, but and maybe that's all true. But one of the things that we would add to your thing, Tim, about getting people out of the gate and getting into those buys, it's not an uncommon scenario that, your first couple appointments, you go with your development agent. And maybe the deal that came up is a little bit outside of the comfort level of that franchisee. It's not uncommon for that DA to say, well, let's do it together. But why don't I'll put my money towards it, you put your money towards it, and we'll share the risk. And that's that when we talk about community, that's that level of that. Like, it's not uncommon for our franchisees to do deals with each other all across the country and all that kind of stuff too. And Leslie mentioned vendors, and you, Tim, you mentioned that too. And I want to just take it a step further to say that our vendor, we have a vendor relationship team, and the vendor contracts that we have saved our franchisees $10 million last year, not like for the life of the franchise, last year alone. So when you go to Sherwin-Williams and you need 18 gallons of paint to do the inside and outside, that price is going to be way lower than if you did it on your own. Or you have to go to Floor and Decor, you have to go to Lowe's or Home, and so that is that power in numbers where you're like, yeah, I can do this on my own, but why would I? Kind of,
people don't realize the power behind buying power of a franchise, right? And you think of every little thing. If you're going to, like, you're buying a house that needs it's fixed and then flipped, right? Every little thing that you have to buy, you are going to buy it for less than if you're just off the street, like doing this on your own. And that stuff adds up, right? And adds up quickly.
Huge. And making and mistakes. And that's the other thing. Usually when you go into when you become a new franchisee in a market, I'll say Philadelphia because that's where I live. I'm going to connect with the local franchisees, and they're going to have a spreadsheet of contractors, who to use for this, who to avoid, who to use for that too. Those are the type of things that can put you out of business. You make a couple of really bad decisions and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm out of capital. And so when you have all these people in your corner, it makes for a better recipe for success.
Yeah. I think that's one of the cool things from my experience over the years with HomeVestors is that, and I want to talk about the territory because it is unique how you do it, but these are some of the perks behind it. In your, like, if when people put their homeowner hat on and they're like, oh, I need somebody to come to my house to do whatever, what's the biggest fear? Like, oh man, how do I get somebody that's good, that's reliable? How do I know? So now you're going in there, even as a HomeVestor owner, like, oh geez, I need a junk hauler, I need this, I need that. Yes, you can go try to find it, but you can also now reach out to everybody in your local market and go, all right, who do we got for this, right? And so so now you're knowing you've got a proven commodity and you're probably getting maybe not as specific as like a Sherwin-Williams or Lowe's or Home Depot, but that junk hauler now has worked with multiple HomeVestors owners. They're probably giving you the best price that they can do because he's seeing this as a bigger, it's not just Tim flipping a house. It's Tim as part of HomeVestors flipping
Right.
tons of houses in the market. So that's again another huge advantage for being within the system, right? So talk a little bit about the territory, because in most situations, it's standard franchising. Hey, this is the Franchising 101 podcast, so let's educate people on how this works, right? Is a franchise has a territory. Like we're going to draw a circle, it's zip codes, it's whatever, population, household, business count, whatever it might be. That's your territory. You do business in that territory. Others do business in theirs. HomeVestors is a little bit different. So walk us through that.
Certainly for me. So I'm the new guy on the block. I joined HomeVestors in February. And I remember, probably my first day, we were in a meeting and we were talking about territory. We're talking about validation was one piece of it, talking to franchisees. And there was like somebody in Dallas and they were calling the other franchisees in Dallas. And I was like, wait, you got to make sure you give the caveats of like, maybe somebody in your backyard might be a little bit more, may not be as forthcoming with information because franchisees tend to be territorial by nature. And I'm not saying they would be deceptive, but implore them to look at other areas too, right? That's kind of what I thought. You have to be, keep that in the back of your mind. And they're like, oh, no. Our franchisees get really excited when another franchisee comes in. I said, oh, okay, cool. And I said, why? I knew all the answers just in general about brand awareness and more marketing dollars being spent. And this is that, just to a bigger scale, right? So and how it works is, and I think it's pretty interesting, and I think it makes a lot of logical sense when you look at it this way, is that, okay, so I already mentioned before, probably the biggest part of the investment is having how many dollars you're going to spend in marketing. And you have that in a bucket. Let's call that 7-8 months as part of your investment, plus your franchise fee and some startup costs. And if I'm going into Philadelphia and I'm talking to our ad council president and they say, where you're at, the county that you're in and all that kind of stuff, you should be spending, let's say, $10,000 a month. I'm not sure if that's the number. And I'm going to say, well, I'd like to spend 15, or maybe I'd like to spend 5. You have that flexibility as a franchisee in our system. So how it works is that you are buying into in most areas, you're buying into the DMA. Now, Atlanta may be broken up into parts. Dallas maybe have some different parts, but you're buying into that area. And we look at the total ad spend based on population. And that's how we determine the market is closed out. So it's like Leslie said at the beginning, or maybe before we were off recording about, people are like, you have 1,000 locations. Every time I put a territory check in, it's probably going to be no, but it's not, because we have, so what happens is, let's say Philadelphia is, we want to spend $250,000 a month. We kind of looked at that as the saturation point. And until we get close to that, we can still bring in more franchisees. So what happens is, if I'm spending $20,000 in Philly and you're spending $10,000, the only difference is that I get more leads. I'm buying a share of the ad spend in that market, right? And so that's a really neat thing about this business. I was just having this conversation with someone. Oh, it was Leslie. And I was looking at the item 19, and it's broken down into quartiles. And you have your highest performers. I don't have to break down what quartiles are. And I was thinking to myself, it's really interesting because you could look at our what we would call our bottom quartile, and you would look at the numbers and be like, oh man, I don't know if I want that. But that franchisee may have came into this business thinking, I just want to do 1 or 2 deals a year. It's going to put me in that fourth quartile, but to me, I'm not failing. That was my plan going in, versus somebody who's spending $100,000 a month who wants to build something really big. And so that's really going to be tailored to what the investor is looking to do, right? And we'll guide them on what that spend looks like in that market based on where they want to be at. And so that's why there's not those boundary limitations on territory like you would see in, more commonly in other franchises, because you very much are pulling your funds together taking the leads that came from your spend, and then being able to have a bigger geographic area to do transactions in.
Yeah, it's something I think you hit on one thing that probably happens in a lot of franchises. People think, oh, top performers in a brand are the happiest and they're most successful, and the ones that are at the bottom like hate it or whatever. And that's not always the case. Sometimes those people in the bottom half of any brand, they're hitting their goals and they're happy. The franchise usually is kind of, they're happy that they're happy, but they're kind of wishing they were doing a little bit more. HomeVestors, it really is personalized, right? And you may have, and probably do in every market, somebody really, their goal is just a couple houses a year. And then the next person is trying to do 10 a month, right? And the metrics are, because you've been around for so long, pretty cut and dry. Okay, you want 10 a month, you need to spend this. You want one every 6 months, you need to spend this, right?
Correct.
And so it doesn't, and you guys are happy either way with this, and every person new coming into that market. And these aren't like territories that are like, oh, there's all these people in 200,000. No, it's like Phoenix and correct me if I'm wrong, like Phoenix and Maricopa County, I don't know, it's like 6-7 million people, and that's like a territory. So that's why there's so many. That drives the cost down, cost per lead, and then all of those different vendors that you're able to use. But you get owners sometimes that kind of almost buy from each other as well. Maybe somebody, hey, I've got this house, I don't have the bandwidth to do the fix up, right? Like, oh, Lesly, are you interested? And you're like, yeah, no, that's perfect. It's exactly what I want to do. So it's almost like built in buyers sometimes as well, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So if they're trading deals with one another, or if maybe the house is not in their buying criteria, maybe it's not a house that they personally want to keep, or maybe they want to sell it to somebody else. That is the benefit of the community. And depending on experience too, we have this really cool baseball analogy. Let's say the person comes in with zero background and really wants to get involved in real estate investing, maybe they're not going to do big fix and flips right out of the gate, but maybe they'll wholesale deals to each other, or assignments, or maybe wholetails, which is just like a light cleanup of the property and relisting it on the MLS. So depending on your skill set right out of the gate, or your, the abilities for you to do this, right, following a blueprint, and depending on what your goals are, your personal goals for yourself, then it's going to determine, how many houses a year you really want to buy and how deep you're going to be involved in this business, because everybody's going to be different.
Yeah. And one thing I think too, I don't know that we talked about is again, the, like, why HomeVestors versus trying to do this on your own? But if this isn't, again, we kind of joke like, hey, why are you calling my house ugly? Some of these are, it's the situation, right? Sometimes it is, these aren't the like dream houses for a realtor to get in a gated community that's this beautiful, immaculate thing. Walking into a house that's in some level of distress, how in the world do you know how to quote that and understand where the repairs are, if you're doing this on your own versus HomeVestors, right? Not just the training, but this goes back to that kind of community of other owners to be able to get like feedback, support, make sure you didn't accidentally miss like some $10,000 line item in the fix. Talk a little bit about kind of that training to make sure you're buying it at the right price. So basically, for lack of a better term, you're not screwing yourself over by paying too much where you can't make any money. So
we'll go back to the beginning of, having those DAs with them on their first buys, right? Because they know the market the best and they're going to point out things. So you always kind of have that to fall back on. The other piece in it will come with experience, but we also have some really great technology that plays a huge part in it. We have Value Check, which is going to be able to it's going to run comps. You're going to be able to add in what repairs that you see and all that it's going to calculate it for you. And it's going to give you, you can actually set the parameters and I'd say like, if ever you may be a franchisee that says, I need to make X percent margin on every deal I do. And so you can put that into it and say, okay, this is the offer that I can make to get here. And that's what I was going to say too earlier about having a bigger network is like, you may have somebody's like, if I can't make at least $50,000, let's say on it, I don't want it. But there's plenty of people that are like, I'm okay with the $40,000 net or whatever it is. So right. I would reach out to other franchisees, but I think it's leveraging that mentorship program, experience and technology, which is going to help avoid a lot of those pitfalls.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's also going to determine your loan for your private, for your lending, for your funding options. So depending on how they price the house, it's going to give them up to 100% of the purchase and the repair cost. So that's also kind of like another checkpoint there that they have to kind of, keep in mind as they're pricing out the property.
Gotcha. And then a couple of like simple things I don't think we've hit on is as an owner, you're coming in, you get to kind of personalize the type of business you want to build. You don't necessarily need any staff. You don't necessarily need an office, any of those things necessarily. So you're able to start with really low overhead, really essentially other than the marketing spend, which is going to be based on how big you want to grow the business. Is that kind of an accurate depiction?
Absolutely. This is 100% home-based. You could do it by yourself. And as you gradually continue to grow, then you can maybe add an administrator. But you can totally do this starting off alone from your house.
Awesome. The biggest key, I think, is you have to answer the phone when the phone rings, right? And Absolutely. So people ask, can we do the semi-absentee? Can you do it? And the answer is yes. I mean, it's just like any businesses. First of all, I don't even know why I just said semi-absentee. I made it my New Year's resolution last year to never say that again. The only reason is I don't think it's a bad word. I just think that you ask 10 different franchisors the definition of semi-absentee, you're going to get 10 different answers. So I kind of now I've gotten the habit of saying full-time and part-time. It's just like any business. The more that the owner does, the more cash flow, maybe. And then the more they have people doing it, you have, more costs, more expenses on an ongoing basis, but you're still building equity in both scenarios. It just depends on, and so as long as you have somebody because that phone, someone's going to call 1-800, 44 buyer, and it's going to go to, it's going to come to your phone. I know some of our franchisees have an old school flip phone that that's the only number. If it rings, that means that's somebody who was looking to sell a house. So whether that's the owner, whether it's a buyer, whoever it is, you got to be able to answer that phone because it's speed to lead and all that kind of stuff is really. You're going to
spend the money on the marketing to make the phone ring. Yes. Answer the dang phone, right?
Yes,
for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Very cool. What's I'll throw this out to both of you guys, and I greatly appreciate all of your time and the information on HomeVestors and just the overwhelming amount of and ways in which HomeVestors is supporting their owners. Anything maybe we've missed that you guys would like to share about HomeVestors? I'll throw that out to both of you real fast, and then I'll let you get back to your days.
So I got a couple little things that I think that I want to bring some note to. One of the things is Lesly had said it when we're talking about the DA program. She says you may have been in HomeVestors for 20 years and you still have a question. You can still call your DA. And the reason that jumped out at me is because we have a bunch of 25, 20-year, 15-year, 10-year franchisees. And the reason I bring it up is because we have a 5-year franchise agreement. It's one of the shortest I've ever seen. And yet we have so many of these franchisees that keep renewing and renewing. And it's even like, because when I first was looking at this, when I was coming on board with the company, I saw that 5-year and I was like, it feels like such a business that like, if I learned it, why would I renew? Like I learned it. And so I, asked a bunch of franchisees, why do you keep renewing? And it was a lot of the same answers that we talked about before: the community, the access to capital, the access to the leads, and all that kind of stuff. And I just think it's really telling, right? We want you to be happy and successful. We're not, one thing I feel that there's like a misconception with a lot of franchises, I'm just kind of talking to your audience too. And I hope my fellow franchisors are in the same thought process. Is like, we're not trying to put handcuffs on you, but we certainly want to give you guardrails. And if you can run your business and stay within the guardrails, you're going to have a better chance of success. And that's holds very true with this business. And we've talked, I think the theme of this episode, if you will, has been like, I don't know, customization, like, and whether your investment appetite is, 100, 150 or, 500, 600, 700,000, whatever it is, you could find that in HomeVestors and grow your business accordingly with that. So I think noting that lower, less amount of years franchise agreement and then the amount of the people that just keep coming back, I think is really important to note. And then the other thing I would mention to you is that our franchise development team, like, should you have somebody that, comes forward and says, I want to learn more, or they go through you. We have, I think it's like 100 years and just our franchise development team of experience with HomeVestors. People love this company. They love the brand. They love the culture. There's a loyalty. There's an excitement, and a lot of pride, and that really carries over into our franchise network. And so I just think if somebody is really looking for something special, this checks a lot of boxes.
Yeah, love it. All right, Leslie, you're on the clock.
I think at the end of the day, giving access to real estate investing in general to the masses, it is so, for me, is gratifying, because to some it may seem like a really far-fetched dream, right? To get started with maybe a low entry barrier, and having access to the community, I think adds so much more value, because you don't really know what you don't know. You may have an idea based on, Instagram reels or TV shows and things like that. But at the end of the day, having that person that's going to be there the entirety of your business is like having an on-call advisor, as I say, where you are not going to be positioning yourself in a spot where you may not be able to come out of, right? So I think that in itself is just so much more value than trying to figure it all out, on your own terms by yourself.
But I'm confused, Leslie. Are you saying reality TV and Instagram doesn't depict 100% accurate of what it's really like? Oh my goodness. Let me write that down. But people that kind of think that, or it can seem glamorous with this, but it's a rare, like, not everybody's Chip and Joanna, right? From that standpoint, and you're watching them on TV now. You're not watching them when they first started this and all the mistakes that they made. Just franchising in general is giving you the plan to follow, right? And if the plan and what you're doing as an owner, that get out of bed test, is you have an interest in real estate, right? You think this would be a fun, cool thing to do. You want to make a difference and help people, and you want to have a big community of like-minded owners to work with and communicate with and help one another. Then guess what, folks? HomeVestors might be the one for you. So, Mike, Leslie, I can't thank you guys enough for coming on to chat with us today and tell us a little bit about HomeVestors.
Yeah, thanks for the platform. Appreciate it.
No, we appreciate it so much, and thank you guys for coming on, and have a good rest of your day.
You too. Take care.
Take care.
Thanks again to Leslie and Mike from HomeVestors, We Buy Ugly Houses, for joining us today. Thanks to all of our loyal listeners for tuning in as well. We hope the Franchising 101 podcast continues to provide valuable insight into the amazing possibilities that can be achieved with franchise ownership. If HomeVestors or anything else might be the thing for you, reach out to our team at francoach.net. We are here to help you, again, figure out if you should own one and find your best match. Also, be sure to, if you haven't yet, click that little like, subscribe, follow button wherever you're checking out the podcast. Don't forget our completely revamped YouTube channel also has our TV show, The Franchising 360 Show. You can find that live on Biz TV every Friday, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. Tomorrow night, we talk a lot about marketing right? We're going to go into specific examples of the way that can happen and things you can do as an owner. So that's tomorrow night, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on Biz TV. I guess if you have plans tomorrow night on Friday that you can't hit it, check out our YouTube channel next week. It'll be there. That is a little bit about us. Again, when you're ready to learn more, to figure out if this is for you, we're here at FranCoach.net to book a call with our team. There's never any fee. We're here to help you create your better tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.